Joining the podcast is former Alabama and current Las Vegas Raiders defensive lineman Byron Young. Byron, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just having an off day, after camp, getting ready to go to the next
I heard
preseason game.
I heard that. Tell me, how is the Vegas heat? How does it compare to the heat down south?
It's different, man. It's really different. It's not humid here at all. It might be 20, 15% humidity here, but the sun is just so bright at all times. I mean, you'll walk outside at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it'll still be a little bit bright and it'll still be like 100 degrees. So, I mean, I honestly prefer being here more so than down there because the humidity just it makes you feel so sticky and you just keep sweating. But up here, your sweat dries kind of fast, so you don't really realize how much you're sweating. So it's really easy to get dehydrated up here, but I would much rather this kind of heat than the humidity down there.
Oh yeah, that Alabama and Mississippi humidity, that's hard to beat, man. Speaking of Mississippi, you're from Laurel, Mississippi and went to West Jones High School. I know you had some relatives, I think an older brother that played football there. But where did your love for football, where did that start?
So I have three older brothers, man. They all played football at West Jones. My dad actually played there too a long, a long time ago. But it really just it came from watching all of them play football. It came from watching my oldest brother and then my second oldest brother and then the one closest to me, watching all of them and then seeing them all go and play in college. That's really where it came from.
Where did they play in college at?
My brother Kendrick, the oldest one, played at Pearl River, and then he played at Southern Illinois. The next one, Redrick, he played at Jones College. And then my one closest to me, Brandon, he played at Jones College and then Arkansas State, Monticello.
Okay. Well, speaking of staying on the college topic and Mississippi, you're a Mississippi guy, obviously, as we just mentioned. Growing up, did you want to play for State or Ole Miss?
No, growing up, man, I really wanted to go to LSU. I grew up an LSU fan, really because my brother, who was close to me, Brandon, I mean, he loved Alabama, and so I just kind of wanted to pick a rival school from Alabama just to kind of spite him a little bit. So I chose LSU, and then I grew up liking LSU from really as far back as I can remember up until really when I committed to Alabama, which was in like the summer of 2018, maybe right before my senior year. So I never really cared for the Mississippi States or the Ole Miss or Southern Misses. I visited all of those schools and they were nice, but they just weren't the place for me. And I think going to Alabama turned out just fine.
How excited was your brother for you when you signed with Alabama?
He was excited, man, but I don't know if anybody was more excited than my dad. My dad loves Alabama, so he still to this day, you would think I'm still playing there. You would think I'm about to go suit up and go play the first game for him. But man, he loves it. He was the most excited one.
Well, what ended up selling you on Alabama?
It was really I just wanted to win. I wanted to win. I wanted to be close to home, and I wanted a chance to go to the NFL. I did all those things. I mean, home was just a natural thing, but I was able to go over there. I was able to win. I was able to get developed and become a great football player, and I was able to eventually make it to the NFL. So those are really the selling points that got me to go to Alabama. I did actually think about Ole Miss. That was really because of Coach Freddie Roach. He was a really big reason, but he ended up being at Alabama in the future. So it was it was a close call, kind of towards the end with Alabama and then Ole Miss coming along at the end, just with him recruiting me so heavily.
Speaking of Coach Freddie Roach, I remember at Alabama before every practice, you guys would be down there. He'd be yelling at y'all. You'd be striking the sleds and all that stuff, kind of just getting into the frame of mind and setting the tone for the defense. How much do you think that helped you and the rest of the D line doing that every day, set the tone and just help with y'all's confidence of stopping the run?
I think it helped a lot, man, because there in Alabama, just like here in Vegas, the first thing is stopping the run. And I mean, going out there before practice and getting extra work in, making sure we're warmed up and making sure we're able to start practice fast is a really big thing. It's really big in Alabama and it's really big here. So I think it's a really important thing. It's time where you can kind of slow down. You aren't on the clock per se of you have 5 minutes in individual. You can go out there and you can do things that are specifically tailored towards you and exactly what you might need. And so I think that's a really good thing to do because here we go out to practice, honestly, some days 40 minutes early. and we'll be out there hitting the sled, doing footwork drills, all kinds of things that we might not have time to do during practice. And it's just about putting extra work in to get to where we all want to go.
I saw an interview with you the other day. It was after one of the practices, and someone had asked you about playing time and all that kind of stuff, and you mentioned you gave a outstanding, very impressive answer.
You mentioned earning time on the field. Did that take you back to being in Alabama where you had to earn every opportunity and every rep?
It did. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's exactly how it should be. I don't deserve anything. I have to show up every single day and work every single day and give them a reason to put me in the game.
How much do you think being at Alabama behind Christian Barrymore and guys like Raekwon Davis helped you with that?
I think it helped a lot, man, because last year was kind of like a mirror image of my freshman year. I came in and I was recruited and I wanted to play right away, just like last year. And there were other guys in front of me when I got to Alabama, just like there were other guys in front of me when I got here. And there were older guys, just like it was here. So it was a trying season. There were ups and downs last year. It was a lot of times where I questioned a lot of things, but a lot of guys in the room really came together and helped me and explained to me just the process and what it actually meant to become a professional athlete. Because you come from college and you're used to going to meetings and doing things and stuff like that and just eating in the cafeteria. But when you get to the NFL, you have a lot more free time, which is actually a thing that a lot of people told me. But you have a lot more free time and a lot of things that are mandatory in college, you have to go out of your way to do in the NFL, and you have to find those resources. And so for me, coming all the way from Alabama, not really knowing anybody out here, it was a challenge to try to find all the resources out here that I had in college that weren't particularly just provided immediately right in the facility and things like that. So I think it helped a lot. I think it helped a lot, and I think it's going to help me a lot this year because I mean, I went from my freshman year to barely playing, and then my sophomore year had a much bigger role, and that's really what it's looking like this year. I think when we went through camp and we went through OTAs, I gave them a reason to believe in me, and I gave them a reason to give me an opportunity to be on the field. And we have two more preseason games coming up, and I have an opportunity to continue to stack days and give them more of a reason to play me whenever we get to the regular season.
Well, kind of staying on the Alabama topic, what do you think about Coach DeBoer? What is your expectations for this new era of Alabama football?
I think it's going to be great, man. I think it's going to be great. I've met Coach DeBoer. I've talked to him. He was very, very welcoming. It was kind of funny when I first met him, though. I was back. It was during our off season, and they were doing the fourth quarter program. And whenever I'm back in town, I normally stay in Tuscaloosa because my girlfriend is still in school there. And so I was in the weight room and I forgotten my clothes that day. And I was wearing the gray suits that they used to give all the players, the gray pants with the football and the size of the shirt on it and the gray shorts to match it and everything. And so I was working out and then they were doing fourth quarter. So I walked outside while they were doing fourth quarter. And Coach DeBoer, like he kept walking by me and he kept looking at me. Like he was just looking at me like, why is this guy sitting over here like not in the drills or not doing anything? And then he eventually came up to me. He was like, hey, like I didn't know you were like you play here. Like I thought that I had another player that I hadn't met yet. And I was wondering why he was just sitting over on the sideline not doing anything, man. But it was a he's a really good guy, man. Really down to earth. Really just a really calm demeanor, calm and confident demeanor. All the guys that I talk to there seem to love him, so I think they're going to have a lot of success.
That's funny, man. That's a pretty interesting story. I've been kind of curious to know like what's the connection with him and all of the former alumni and all that kind of stuff, but sounds like it's going pretty good.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. I went back. They let me put my fingerprint back in so I can go all around the building. Let me go upstairs and eat if I wanted to. Have access to the training room and the trainers, everything. So it's just like it was with Coach Saban. As far as allowing the alumni to come back in.
That's good. That's good. That's how it should be. Speaking of Alabama, I got another Alabama question for you. Tell me the story about we were playing Tennessee, and I think I might be butchering the story, but you were talking to one of the Tennessee players, and then he just threw up. What was the story there?
I remember him throwing up. I've seen video probably hundreds of times. I've had people tag me in and ask me about it. I wasn't talking to him. I don't remember at what point in the game it was. I think it was late third quarter, maybe early fourth. everybody was out there tired. And I was actually talking to Dallas Turner. I actually just played against him like 2 or 3 days ago. I was talking to him. He was right beside me. And then the offensive lineman was just looking at me, and I'm just looking at him, and then he threw up. And I just turned to Dallas, and I was like, "Did you just see him throw up?" And he was like, "Yeah," but it wasn't anything crazy, man. It was just when you play football as much as I have and for as long as I have, you see people throw up all the time. Like during camp, you'll see guys on the sideline, pick their helmet up off the head, throw up, and then go run in and go play. Or you'll be on the field and somebody will be in their stance and they'll just throw up through their face mask and then they'll go play that play and then have to clean it afterwards. So it wasn't anything that was too surprising. It was just in that moment wasn't something I was expecting.
Well, you left Alabama a national champion and an SEC champion. What was the most memorable thing looking back on your college career? What was the most memorable moment or game?
Uh, for me, the most memorable game was when we played Auburn. My junior year, I believe it was, when we went into like 3 or 4 overtimes. That was one of the games that was just I mean, I'll never forget the feeling I had in that game. I'll never forget the feeling I had when the game ended. I was just so relieved that we won, man, and I was just it was like a lot of feelings just rushed over me because um there was a lot on the line in that game. You know, if we lose, we're still in the ACC championship, but we probably don't make the national championship like we did that year. We ended up losing to Georgia, but I mean, still made great memories all throughout that. But another one was when we won the national championship during the COVID year down in Miami. That was a really great memory too.
Well, after Alabama, you had a really good showing at the Senior Bowl, and you got to work with some of the Raiders coaching staff. Did you leave the Senior Bowl thinking that, maybe I might be a Raider?
I had no clue. I had no clue at all. Um, He was the coach who was there was Matt Edwards. He's not with us anymore. He's with the Buffalo Bills now, but he was there all throughout the week and he was coaching us. And I honestly had no clue. Like I had a not a 30 visit, but at the combine I had an interview with them, which was after the Senior Bowl, and then I think I might have had a Zoom with him. And then that was really it. So, I mean, I had no clue I was going to Vegas. I just remember sitting in my brother's house and getting a call and seeing the Vegas number pop up. I had never seen a Vegas number pop up at 702. I just saw the little thing where it told you where the area code was. And man, that was it. That was it. They called me. It was I believe at the time it was either Josh McDaniels that called me or Dave Ziegler. Neither of them are here any longer. Um, but it was one of them, and I'm still to this day really thankful to them, and they changed my life even though they aren't here any longer. I'm really appreciative to both of them, and man, it was a crazy moment.
On draft night, you didn't have one team in mind that you were like, man, I think I might go here.
I I thought the Atlanta Falcons. They had talked to my agent. They had told me they were interested in me, and they had a pick like 2 or 3 picks later after the Raiders, and so. I thought I might have ended up in Atlanta, which would have been cool because it would have been close to home. But other than that, man, I didn't have a clue in the world.
What was more of a transition, going from high school to college or college to the NFL? Because you mentioned, you have to kind of find your own resources in the NFL. What do you think?
I would say probably high school to college. They're both different. They're both very, very different. You go from high school to where you're young, you're around your family all the time, you're around your friends, you're in an area that you're very comfortable with, and then all of a sudden you're completely going to another place. In that situation, I had the opportunity to choose where I went, and obviously, I chose Alabama. It was the first time I had ever been away from home for a very extended period of time, even though I was only 2.5 hours away, which doesn't seem like anything now that I'm 28 hours away up in Vegas. Doesn't seem like much of anything, but I would say that was probably the bigger adjustment just because when you come in from high school, a lot of guys are still 17, 18 years old. I was 18 at the time, and you haven't really grown into yourself. You know, you're still growing. You might get taller, things like that. And so, man, it was a really hard adjustment. It was really difficult at that time. But coming to Vegas was difficult too. You know, like I said, going 28 hours away into a place I've never been. Before I came to Vegas, the furthest west I had ever been was Texas. And so it was completely different. But the biggest thing I noticed from the NFL or from college to the NFL is just how precise everything is, and then just how good every single person you play against is going to be. You know, you can in college you can play against a guy on a Saturday night from Mississippi State who is a sixth-year senior who just happens to be starting at left guard because he's waited his turn and now he's getting an opportunity. But after his last game, he's going to go work at JP Morgan or something like that. But in the NFL, you're playing against all NFL players. Some guys have been doing this for 2 years. Some guys have been doing it for 8. I have a guy on my team who's going into year 12. So I think that they're both different challenges. But I would say that probably coming out of high school and then going to college was the most difficult.
The transition from college to the NFL, do you think that being at Alabama around so many other future NFL players kind of helped you make that, transition and adapt?
I think it helps some, but I also think that for a majority of people, when you go from college to the NFL, the jump is so big, and the when you're in the NFL, the amount, like the margin of error is so thin. It's so thin. Like you can be playing a certain technique, and then at last moment, you put your eyes in the wrong place, and then the running back is in your gap. Like my defensive coordinator says, he always says every running back in the NFL is one of 32. There's only 32 people in the world who are starting NFL running backs, and so they're all special. Um, and so, I think being in college at Alabama did help because of physicality and playing against guys at practice like J.C. Latham, who was a top 10 pick, Evan Neal, Jedrick Willis, Alex Leatherwood, Landon Dickerson, all of those guys who have been successful in the NFL and who hopefully will be in the talking about JC. I think that did help some though.
What was your welcome to the NFL moment?
It wasn't more of a moment. It was like a series. My first ever time in a regular season game. The biggest thing I noticed was like we were preseason. We had joint practices with the 49ers. And at the time I was going with like the twos and the threes. Um, and I was doing really, really well, man. So I'm like, man, NFL, like this isn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. Like people told me this is gonna be crazy. Like I'm like, man, I might make a Pro Bowl this year. Like I'm doing great out here. And then we go and we play the Broncos. And the first time I get in the game, the difference between the backup offensive linemen and the starters on the offensive line, in my opinion, was huge. Like like I'm out there and things are happening so much faster than I'm used to. Like I had a pass rep where I was trying to pass rush, and the guy just grabbed me, and I couldn't move, and it was something that really hadn't happened before because in college I'm normally stronger than everybody, so even if they get their hands on me, I can normally get them off and get away. This time it might have been Quinn Menierez. Um, he just had me just hands inside, locked up, and I'm just wiggling side to side trying to move. And that first drive was a little bit rough, and so I'd probably say that was my welcome to the NFL.
Well, as you head into to wrap this up, as you head into year two, what's your expectations for this upcoming season, and what's something that you personally want to showcase for everybody to see?
My expectations this year is to win. I think we've put in a lot of work, myself and my teammates included, to be successful this season. So I expect us to win a lot. For myself, man, I want to go out there and I want to make an impact. I want to be a player who is an impact player in every single game, who can change the game and tip the scale. So I feel like I put the work in to be able to do that this year, and that's really my goal.
Well, Byron, I'll let you run, man. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. This has been real fun. Good luck this season.
No problem, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.